To all my movers, makers, and shakers who live out loud, stand strong, build empires, move mountains, push boundaries, make memories, and refuse to take no for an answer. If this sounds like you, you came to the right place. Welcome to WomanCEO Podcast, focused on wealth, confidence, empowerment, and ownership by paving the way for the next generation of women leaders. I'm your host, Yasmine Belle, two-time CEO and founder, certified wealth and money coach, licensed tax boss, and financial planner, helping you live abundantly. Joseph, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here because I want to speak to you about how during quarantine, you decided to pivot and walk away from a lucrative career for the last 38 years in the entertainment industry to launch Spiritual Warriors, a health and wellness company.
When COVID hit and the quarantine happened and my business, which was tied to live entertainment, came to a screeching halt, it was like this. While it was scary, it was liberating, right? The universe just did for me what I would have never done for myself, and I jumped right on it. I mean, I did a bunch of different courses and classes and studied and that's when I got accredited as a life coach and accredited as a meditation instructor and started put together all the pieces of Spiritual Warriors and just really took a deep dive into it. And I got more things done during the quarantine than I ever had before the quarantine, quite honestly. So
many people can relate to of, being, I don't want to use the word stuck, but a little bit on a hamster wheel of being at a job that's successful. You make your money, you have outside responsibilities, right? That you have to adhere to. And so often we think we have no other options, right? Until the world hands you quarantine and you're left with your thoughts and questioning basically your whole life. So, which I can 100% relate. I mean, during that time, like you said, you actually took the time to, find your purpose, right? Find your passion. When most people, during uncertainty, which nothing in life is certain anyways, but during uncertainty, and especially during COVID, I know a lot of people retreated, and freaked out, right? They were waiting. Yeah. So what was your decision-making to tell yourself, okay, enough is enough. I want to do something different. I want to find my purpose. What's really calling me?
That actually started before the quarantine. So quite a bit before the quarantine, I just started to kind of have a shift internally with myself. And again, whether it was a midlife crisis or whatever it was a shift that happened spiritually and personally. Just realizing that, that there's something bigger and better for me out there. Right. And so I started to kind of search. I read a lot. I did a lot of, retreats and I mean, I've always been kind of introspective anyway. Ever since the day I've been sober 37 years. And so, so, if to stay sober 37 years, you definitely have to not be afraid to look inside on a pretty consistent basis. And so for me, it was really just kind of realizing that I got off on helping people, that I got this charge. I felt fulfilled. And so for me internally on my businesses, and I've owned several businesses through the years, one of the biggest benefits were that I could help the people that worked for me, meaning not help them do their job, but help them with their careers. So if you started as every personal assistant I have ever had in my career has gone on to be an executive because I've helped them to. You know what I mean? I've encouraged them to, and I've given them opportunities to grow internally in the company. And kind of promote within at the company was always my motto at companies, but especially towards, the last 10 years. And so it was for me, it wasn't the opposite. And a lot of people do the opposite where they don't want people to leave and they want to keep them down and they want to keep, you know what I mean? And it's horrible. It's a horrible environment. and it was the opposite for me. And so that's an example of how I really enjoy helping others, and in the process helping myself. And that was the kind of the guilty pleasure of it all, right?
Yeah.
Was that even now when I'm coaching people, sometimes I'll get, I'll end a session and I'm like, I almost feel guilty about being paid, because I'll end a session and like I'll have epiphanies
Mm-hmm.
during the session, right? And so I'm growing
Mm-hmm.
leaps and bounds because of what I'm doing for a living and getting paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, holy cow, right?
Yeah.
So it was a no-brainer for me right away. And so yeah, it happened much earlier. What happened with COVID was, all of a sudden you've got all this time and you've already got these things that you were kind of developing and churning on the side, so to speak, personally, that I just quickly turned into, okay, well, hey, I've got this. Let's try it. Let's do it. I've got time. Let's do it.
I commend people for seeking awareness and really looking inward, because that's where the juice is. That's where the bliss is. And we so often are afraid to look what's inside. We're afraid to do the shadow work because we're afraid of what we might find. When we live or with our true passion and purpose, we can make incredible changes within ourselves and impact the world.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't solve everything, but it definitely, it gives you a great foundation.
100%.
You said afraid like 6 times, right?
Yeah.
Fear. Fear isn't real. We know that, but we don't know that, right? And so many people who live unconsciously, including myself for most of my life, you're run by fear, right? And you go like this, whoo, right? Now, sometimes it's good, fight or flight. It's good. Okay, don't cross a freeway.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Don't run across the freeway.
Yeah,
You should fear that. You should not do that. Okay.
Yeah.
But most of the time, and there's some amazing books in this subject, you lean into fear. Pina Chadron talks a lot about that. And I've read a lot of her stuff where you're leaning into your fear. You're leaning into your securities. It's that saying that everything we want in life is on the other side of fear.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? But it's on the other side. What does that mean? That means you can't go around. Mm-hmm. You can't wait. You can't hope it goes away. You'll never discover what's on the other side of that, right? It's not so much about introspection in that regard. It's about faith and believing that, and just understanding that and being shown that too, right? Like, wow, I got through that, and look at this, or it's the other saying where for everything that's taken away from you, it's making room for something new.
I love that.
These aren't BS. This is real life. This is stuff that you experience through life. 100%. If you stay open and if you stay self-aware and if you do the things that I'm talking about that you do. But it's work. It doesn't just happen. Okay, I found my purpose and passion in life. What now? Right. You don't wait to be discovered. You still have to go out, and you still have, but you're going out with this passion and purpose. It's different. It's like, people talk about how you forget, if you're really doing something you love, you forget to eat and poop. It's true. You forget, oh my God, I've had to go to the bathroom for the past 2 hours. I've better, you know what I mean? Because you're just so engrossed. You ever done anything like that? Where you're completely engrossed in what you're doing, and all of a sudden you realize you're starving, and yet you missed lunch, and because you're just so engrossed in it. Well, that's something that you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. That's passion. That's and that's the best indicator.
Yeah, I love that. So what would you say, what is the difference between passion and purpose?
You can have multiple purposes, and it's not like you don't have one and you have to go create one. Mm-hmm. It's really that we are all born with it. We're all born with innate qualities. We are all different. We all have our, like from the movie The Jerk with Steve Martin. But I found my special purpose. But we all have. We're born with this. Mm-hmm. But it just gets covered in crap and all the other stuff. And no, you have to be a provider. You have to be a businessman. You have to do this. Don't, you know what I mean? And so, or we're pushed down. Especially if you're if your purpose is something in the creative side, um, at least in my generation, you want to be an artist, you want to be an actor, you want to be no, go get a real job, do something, get a real career.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy? But
Mm-hmm.
that's what's happened with people. So you are born with these innate qualities that you then develop into purposes, or you can take what you're passionate about, right,
Mm-hmm.
and apply it to other areas of your life that aren't necessarily, so it's not practical. If you're creative, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you love art or you love creativity, and you lose yourself in being creative, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that you have to go be a starving artist,
Right.
right? It
Yeah.
just means that you can take that and turn it into something, even if you're like a waiter,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're creative and you're waiting tables and you realize how horrible the menus are.
Mm-hmm.
And so go to the manager and say, I got a great idea to spruce up the menus and da da da. And all of a sudden you're excited about your work instead of just waiting at tables and
Yeah.
people being mean to you and da da da. Now you're like being creative too, and you're creating something, So always feed your passion, feed your purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll get the passion. Feed your purpose and the passion comes.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Because passion is emotion. You have to feel that. Purpose is more impact, going out, taking action. What are you
Mm-hmm,
going to do about it? You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? And they both go hand in hand 100%. You know,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's like the yin and the yang, and they move, they dance together.
That's right.
So what would you say to someone that maybe is seeking a purpose or a passion, or that's a little bit lost and needs a little push, nudge, guidance to find their bliss?
I would say take my course because there's a step-by-step process. But the first most important thing is, again, finding, not so much finding your purpose, but finding what's getting in your way.
Mm-hmm.
What's blocking it? What's the blockage?
Mm-hmm.
What's preventing you from seeing what's always been there?
Yep.
And it's a process. And sometimes it's a pretty rigorous process of going back to when you were a kid, and if you just lose yourself in Legos, and you used to create these huge Lego worlds, and you just loved it. What does that mean? What does that translate to you as a grown-up now? Or better yet, what today would upset the child in you when you were younger? Do you know what I mean? In other words, the child in you, if today you say, oh, well, yeah, I used to love to write stories, but I could never, I had to give that up. I had to, and so the child in you hears the grown up saying that, the grown version of yourself, and the child in you loves to write, right? And is writing and is just enjoying reading and writing short stories and da 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 da. And then all of a sudden it hears, that you gave up on that,
Mm-hmm.
that you let that go.
Mm-hmm.
So what would the child's version of you get upset about letting go?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And and but that's a process. It's not so you can't just do that overnight.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to do some serious work and introspection, and there's a process that's involved in that. And the other blockages, like, well, you're worried about what other people are going to think. You're
Mm-hmm.
worried about failure. You're worried about walking away from money. You're worried about, there's so many things that are blocking you from even considering looking for your purpose and passion in life, And again, it's not, and everybody thinks that, oh, the minute I realize that what I do is what I want to do, you already know what you do. You know that you don't want to do what you're doing. Okay? But it doesn't mean you have to give up doing that. The example before, you can take what you find is your purpose and passion in life and apply it to what you're doing
Yeah.
in the interim. It's we're creatures of instant gratification, right? And so we want to, oh my God, I found my purpose, and quit everything and do this, and all of a sudden you're like, ugh,
Mm-hmm.
because you've got to. That's a scary proposition. So you've got to make a slow kind of, transition and applying it a little bit more and more, and then the opportunities will come. The universe will provide it. You'll manifest what it is that you're working on, because now you've made it a part of your life where before it wasn't. So you were never going to get it because you weren't manifesting it. You weren't applying it to your everyday life. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So these are just examples of what the process is that somebody needs to go through. And it also depends on where they're at in their lives too, right? Whether they're aware or not, even that they're unhappy, you know, or that they know something's wrong. They don't know what it is. They thought it was their relationship, or they thought it was that, that they're losing their hair or whatever it is, but when you do more kind of work on it and looking deeper into what's happening, you find, no, it's actually that I'm doing something that I don't want to be doing. I'm not getting anything out. I'm making great money and I'm not getting anything out of it.
Yeah. That fulfillment and
you
happiness.
feel fulfilled.
Yeah. And happiness, joy, does it make you happy? Are you feeling fulfilled when you come home? Do you feel, there's so many people that get into jobs that they're miserable because they're getting a paycheck. That intuition that keeps pulling you. You don't know what it is, but you're not answering the call.
And it's never too late. That's the biggest one. No, it's too late. Yeah. It's never too late. I'm 59 years old. It's never too late. Yeah. Liam Neeson didn't start his acting career till what? He was 50 something, 52.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. And everybody knows who Liam Neeson is now. Right. So it's never too late.
Yeah.
There's dozens of examples of people that, that prove that it's never too late.
Yeah, it's absolutely never too late. Like really stepping into that space of asking yourself, who are you? What do you want? What is your roadmap? What are you seeking? What brings you joy? Right. What brings you miserableness? Can you cut out of your life? What can you add? Really taking an audit, and stepping.
But those are scary questions.
Yeah.
For people, people that aren't used to asking themselves those questions.
Yeah.
They're very scary questions. What's my dharma? What's my purpose in life? What? What's my purpose in life? Well, I thought this was my purpose in life. You know what I mean? It all of a sudden puts them on very shaky ground, But by the way, we all live on shaky ground every day. It's an illusion that you think you have any control over anything. Yeah. Don't get me started on that subject. That's like a whole other podcast, but it's true.
It's so true, but that will set you free. It is not easy, but it's for those people that push boundaries, that want to make a difference, that really get out of their own way and get out of their comfort. It's such a beautiful way to live because now you're aligning your stars. Your stars are aligned. Now you're open to so much abundance. You have synchronicities. You start to be aware of things. You're like, oh my God, I never even knew this existed. Like the universe really speaks to you. They send you whispers every single day. You just have to listen. And most people live in their hamster wheel of, I'm miserable. I hate my job. I hate my life. Da, 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 da.
They're unconscious.
You won't be able to listen or hear.
And that's what, and that's where people get confused about when when you hear, especially in the meditation world, about becoming, becoming self-aware or becoming, pure consciousness or all these different concepts that are like, nobody achieves pure consciousness. I don't think it's impossible, but I think unless you're born with that capability from the start. So I think it's it's misleading in that regard. It's like it's just waking up. It's just becoming more self-aware, becoming aware that you're not aware. Think about that one for a while. Just becoming aware that I'm not aware. And that, you know what I mean? And it's this constant ebb and flow, like yin and yang, like you were talking about. It's this constant struggle. But the minute you realize that you've been unconscious your whole life,
Mhm.
It's like taking the blue pill or the, what is it,
The
blue or
red
red. Right.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. There's
Mhm.
no going back.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, there's no going back. It's like the alcoholic who finally, to their very soul, admits that they're an alcoholic, which is the
Mhm.
first step in the program. And there's a reason that is,
Mhm.
because the minute you do that, there's no going back.
Yeah.
And when you do go back, and many of them do, it's
Mhm.
so much worse,
Yeah.
because now you have this guilt and this remorse, because you know deep inside that you really are an alcoholic or a drug addict or, or whatever addict. There's so many addictions these days. So it's the same concept here with consciousness and
Yeah.
becoming more conscious or more self-aware,
Mhm.
but there's things you cannot achieve so many things without that self-awareness, without some level of consciousness
Mhm.
of who you are and what you're doing, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
I mean, Eckhart Tolle talks about it constantly, and every single book he writes it's about that consciousness. That's a necessity before you can live in the now. You can't live in the now and be unconscious.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Mhm.
So instead, you have to be aware that,
Yeah.
why am I worried about yesterday, and why do I care about tomorrow?
Mhm.
None of them are here, and they may never come. You
Yeah.
know, all I got is right now. And
Yeah.
what am I doing right now? I'm worrying about tomorrow. Well, stop.
Mhm. Yeah, and this is why there's so much anxiety, depression, angst around so much, because we're so caught up in the tomorrows that we forget to live today.
Yeah, yeah,
Paying attention to life
yeah.
around us
And
is
then there's and then all these gifts, right? They're all gifts. All of a sudden, that we're always there,
uh-huh.
and you never realized it. You
Yeah.
never realized it. That you go to a forest and you see a tree, and that's great. And you know what a tree is, and it's beautiful and it's strong and it sways with the wind and all. But you don't realize that it's part of the entire forest. That when you look down underneath and
Mhm.
what's going on, I mean, redwoods are a great example. These huge redwood trees that are here in California. I mean, unbelievable how mystic. They've been there for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, right? And the reason is because they have each other,
Mhm.
because their roots are shallow. They could fall over in a second, but their roots are tied together, and they
Yes.
keep they keep. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of miles of this,
Yeah.
of what's going on under the ground with these trees. It's just like, but that's us. That's human beings.
We're all
We
connected.
become so disconnected to the fact that I'm not like that guy that is homeless. I have nothing in common with that guy.
Yeah.
Ew, that he's a fucking alien
Right,
to
right.
me. You know what I mean? It's not. No, he's as human and as imperfect and perfect as you are.
I saw a documentary just recently on root trees actually speak to each other. They have this magnetic fields that if one tree, let's say, is wounded or dying, literally the magnetic fields will go and heal that tree.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah,
fascinating. I've never
it's
seen anything
amazing.
like that. It was so beautiful. And
Yeah,
so it reminds us how there's so much beauty, harmony, connection around us that we can't even really see or comprehend with the mind or the brain, or it's just there. So, and this is where community and helping each other, serving
hmm
is so important,
hmm
because
hmm
you could find your purpose and passion, and also it would support your passion and purpose once you find
right,
it,
right,
you
right.
know, community.
Yeah. I think ultimately that's what you have to find in order to sustain any kind of real joy
Yeah.
in life,
Yeah.
is how what you do helps other people,
Yeah.
and really get focused on that, because, um, and there are some that believe, and I, I think I believe as well that really you can't find your purpose and passion if it doesn't help others.
Mm.
Um, but anything can help others if you really want it to, right?
Oh, yeah.
But at the very least, making sure that what you do touches other people's lives in a positive way,
Mm.
is important. Even if it's just what I did in my company,
Mm.
and making sure it's this incubator for people to grow and become better, not only better employees and better executives, but better human beings.
Yeah. 100%. It's using
Yeah.
those talents and those skills that you have, and maybe you don't have an option, right? I mean, even though we
Hmm.
all have
Hmm.
options, we all make our own choices, and I truly believe that there are times where we may be stuck for whatever reason. We can still apply those talents and that push, that innate impact in us in our current surroundings. Like, we don't have to go and
Yeah.
revamp our whole life. We can just work with what we have and pave our way slowly. So you're
That's right.
still not stuck. Similar to what you were doing, right? And when you
It's
were working,
exactly what I was doing.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
wow.
helping
Yeah.
others just grow and mold into the people that they wanted to become. I mean, you were doing
Hmm.
that naturally, already.
I used to do, because I was in live entertainment. I used to do something to this day. I miss doing it. I used to, because I went to a lot of concerts and stuff, not as a, working.
Mhm.
And there were always these, at the end of, right before the show would start, there's always these tickets that never got picked up or just were held back and not sold,
Mhm.
like in the front. And if you're in an arena or a stadium,
Mm.
right? And you're way in the back, and I would get at least two of them, and I would take a walk all the way to the back of the stadium, right? And find like a mother and daughter or two, sisters or whatever that are at this concert, and they're looking at these little ants on the stage. And I would have my pass, and I would just say, come with me, and they'd see my pass and they'd be like, what's going on? I said, just come with me. And the long walk from there all the way to the front, and I'd hand them their tickets and I'd say, enjoy the show, have a great life, and I'd never see them again.
How amazing.
And it was like, it was such a great, and I did that at almost every show that I would be at, because it was like my fun little way of giving. I mean, they're going to talk about that the rest of their lives,
Mhm.
right? God, remember that day that guy just came and he never even told us his name or anything. And he just, you know what I mean? And it's just,
Mhm. That's
that's
so
like,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I got
yeah,
chills already. I'm like, that's so
right,
cool. That's so
right,
neat. Yeah, to be able to
yeah.
do that and, change somebody's day, somebody's life. And so what would you say for people that, I guess, like, stuck and really kind of stepping into their purpose?
People are asking all the time, what should I do with my life? Or, what is my passion? What's my life's purpose? And I mean, everybody at some point has asked themselves that.
Yeah.
Well, I take that back. Not everybody. There are people that I know that are very in tune. They're in line with what they love and how they make a living doing it, or how they go through life doing it. It's not just about making a living. To go back to when you were young, it's all about when we were all, before we had all of this
Mhm.
baggage
Mhm.
that we have today. We innately knew who we wanted to be. You sat there and you sang to, you know, you sang to Broadway records, you know, in your room when no one was listening, and you just loved it and you just got lost in it. And then one day, one of your friends heard you, and made fun of you, and
Mhm.
that was it. And you threw your records out and you never did it again.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Mhm.
that kind of stuff I'm talking about. That may seem small, but is it?
It's kind of big,
You never did.
actually. It is
Yeah.
kind of big because,
Yeah.
when I was in search of my purpose and passion, one thing that I didn't necessarily sing in my bedroom, but I rode horses. So for me, horses were my savior when I was a kid. I would ride to compete professionally, then grew up, and then life happened to you, and I stopped. And one of the most happiest moments of my life was to be around horses. And my dad was, he bred Arabians, and it was such a beautiful time in my life. And so looking now at my, tax accountant, a coach, and I'm like, where do even horses fit in? Where's
Wow.
that dream that I lost that lit me up? Part of my coaching business is actually, I'm going to fund a nonprofit company to help save horses from the slaughterhouse, because 70,000
Oh,
horses a year get slaughtered
yeah.
for human
Yeah.
consumption, which is so sad.
It's
So
bad.
going full circle, this is the purpose of my coaching, not only to help people, but to use that fund to start a nonprofit. So I can help
Wow.
horses. So
Okay.
so it's not impossible. You just have to
Hmm.
have a vision and a plan.
Right. You're
and
right.
work on it.
And work on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta,
Yeah.
it's gotta be okay once you
Yeah.
find it to sacrifice a lot, but you're not sacrificing anything
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's maybe that confuses it a little bit, but it's not really work.
Yeah.
It's not work is when you're working and trying to do something you don't like. That's work. That's
Mhm.
hard fucking work. And I give a lot of people credit that do that their whole lives,
Mhm.
and it's sad,
Mhm.
it really is.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's
yeah.
what
So
motivates me, it's not sacrifice, it fills me up, it gets me
yeah,
to get up
yeah.
in the morning, it makes me show up, it gives me that goal, that dream, the bigger than me, bigger
Mm-hmm.
purpose that I wanna leave behind. Like you said in the beginning, your
Yep.
legacy. What's your legacy? This is gonna be mine, and I'm
Yeah.
absolutely determined. I mean, till I have my last breath, I'm getting it done.
Mhm.
It's
you know,
happening.
but you're not. It's really important, and maybe this is my answer to your question that you asked earlier about to the person that's having a problem finding it. I didn't do it alone.
Yeah.
Find somebody to
Mhm.
do it, whether it's a coach or a
Yeah.
mentor or a spirit guide or what. I mean, in the beginning for me, it was books and reading and educating myself. And then I found Wayne Dyer,
Love him.
um, and it changed my life
He's
because he was speaking to me
yeah.
as far as I was concerned, or writing to me or whatever. And I watched every lecture he ever did that was recorded or listened to it and read every book and engrossed myself in the message this man was giving. And I truly believe that he was a vessel
Mhm.
for something bigger, because he wasn't perfect. There are bad things about everybody and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I don't care. I mean, teachers come in every kind of form,
Mhm.
right? And for me, that was Wayne, and he really helped. And then I had a lot of, I had one particular life coach that really made a big difference in my life, and
Mhm.
therapists and da da da. Don't do it alone.
Yeah.
It's don't. Nobody should be alone. We
100%.
are not singular. I don't
Mhm.
care who you are. We're not meant to be alone.
Yeah.
We're creatures of tribal. We are very, you know what I mean? We need a tribe. We need a
Community.
posse. We
Yeah.
need, yeah,
Yeah.
we need our group of
Yeah.
supporters.
Our people, 100%.
Right. Exactly. Um,
Mhm.
and so don't do it alone. Find people that you admire, that you feel that you want what they have,
Mhm.
right? And they'll help you get it, and they'll help you get it faster
Mhm.
than they got it because they know all the pitfalls, right? They
Yeah.
know all the shortcuts now because they did it the long way.
Yeah.
It took me how many years to get to where I am today, but it was a lot of like figuring things
Trial,
out.
errors. Yeah.
Yeah,
Same.
exactly.
Same.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So find that kind of person, and that's really why I think I'm valuable as a life coach and as a mentor is because of that. Because I've been through so many different things as an executive, as a sober person in society, as a mentor, I've been through so much as
Yeah.
a father, as a divorced man with kids, I mean, there's so many areas of my life that I've gone through that I've turned negatives into positives and gone through what we started this whole conversation with, gone through that fear and that struggle and
Mhm.
gotten to the other side,
Yeah.
right? With
Mhm.
that knowledge, that everything I just learned going through that process. And
Mhm.
I've done it so many times,
Yeah.
so
Or don't let fear stop you from going for speaking to that person, telling that person, I love you, whether it's
mhm,
that, whether it's making a risk, a bold move. I mean, whatever it is, live your life boldly.
yeah,
We're so,
and help others. There's
yes,
nothing more rewarding than helping another human being.
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Nothing, even if it's just by love,
yeah,
just
yeah,
by loving them unconditionally. You
yes,
know, that's a gift that you can give to somebody right now, today. You can, you can turn this podcast off and find somebody that would benefit from your love.
Yeah.
You
100%.
don't have to be in love with them, but you can love them. You can show them love and support. And you can I see you.
Yeah.
I see you.
Mm-hmm.
How many people just don't feel seen?
Mm.
So many, millions and millions of people. I see you.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's such a
Right?
beautiful gift. And it's so simple. It is the most simpler, priceless gift we can give each other.
And by the way, it's selfish because you wind up feeling so good. I don't care who you are. It's a selfish act, and it's the path to true joy. Everybody talks about joy. There's a book that I loved it called
I think it was the Book of Joy, Dalai Lama? No?
Yes. Nice.
I have it right behind me.
You.
I have it right behind me.
I've read it like 6 times. I see it right there. Yeah. Such a great book.
I know. Amazing.
Such an amazing book. Such an amazing book. The Amazing Man. Okay, so anyway, yes, there's this great book called The Book of Joy.
There you go.
And there it is. And the message is these 2 men that have been through hell, right? Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, through hell, talk about going through fear, and everything you want in life is on the other side. These men lived that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yet they sit there and they talk about the path to true joy is helping other people, and forgiveness.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's
a big one in the book, and that's a big one in life.
Yeah. Forgiving yourself foremost.
And forgiving others too.
Yeah. 100%.
I mean, holding a grudge and resentments, and it's poison.
Yep.
It causes illness.
Yeah.
These are all things that people need to learn, that people need to understand, that you're not being told to be weak if you forgive someone. It's not a weakness to forgive someone. It's a strength.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If it were a weakness and it'd be easy, everybody'd do it. But it's not. It's the harder thing to do, but it's the better thing for you. Forget about the other person. They may not forgive you anyway.
Yeah.
That's not the point.
Yeah. Because it's letting go. Yeah. It's letting go. It's choosing your peace over chaos.
Yeah. There's a saying, no one should live in my mind rent free.
Yes. Don't take up real estate. 100%.
And that's what they're doing. When you have a resentment against someone, they're living in your life rent free.
Yeah.
They don't pay. You get nothing but misery.
Yeah. And they suck
You think they care?
Mm-hmm.
You think they know? They don't know. They don't care.
Yeah. 100%. So what tools in your toolbox that you use that you can share with the audience when faced with uncertainty or difficult situations?
I would say for me, it was finding mentors and or a great coach, or and again, like, it doesn't have to be someone you pay. It can be a good friend that you just see something, that you see that they have a happiness you want, or it can be a colleague at work. Great books, great authors, great spiritual leaders that are available to us now that can change your life. I mean, there are books that have changed my life. I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't read those books, and the list is really long. So there's plenty of stuff out there, and I think also learning to practice mindfulness, being mindful, self-aware, whatever you want to call it. There are great books, there are great teachers, there are great programs that are free, even, that you can learn through meditation or not. Meditation obviously helps a lot. And definitely find a place where you can just enjoy your own private, quiet time every day. Even if it's just lying in bed before you get out of bed, if you're alone in your room, or your loved one's already gone on to work or whatever it is, and use that space for you. Even if it's just 5 minutes. Super important. By the way, if you do that, you've just meditated. Because that's what meditation is. Meditation is just being with yourself. Yeah. And seeing what happens. And then you can get deeper into it, and there's practices you can practice, but there's no bad way to. That's like saying I can't meditate. It's like saying I can't breathe. Yeah. It's as natural as breathing. Does anyone ever have to focus on breathing? No, we just breathe naturally. You don't even think about it because you just do,
Yeah.
right? And your heart beats by itself too. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to will your heart to beat. Well, meditation's the same. It's the same thing. There's no bad way to do it.
Yeah. It's so good to meditate when you're outside in the sunshine, the sun is shining upon you, it's so beautiful. I mean, I always carry a little notebook, a little notepad with me right after meditation because, there are things, there's days where I rock at it. Some days I'm like, not so good, but let's see what came up. And I write those things. So I clearly am bugged by those things. So, and I handle them that day. So that way it clears my energy space. And I find that to be a helpful little trick that I've been doing.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. And that's the other thing I would definitely include in that toolbox is journaling and writing. And it doesn't have to be pen to paper. It can be, you can voice text these days. You can use your notes in your iPhone or your book, whatever it is. I mean, there's so many different ways to journal down what your thoughts are because life gets so busy and you forget them. God, what was that? I thought out loud. Oh God, I can't remember. If you had written it down, you'd remember.
Yeah.
And that's really what journaling is. Journaling is imprinting.
I like that.
It's imprinting, right? And studies have been done, and it's just a fact. The fact is that when you write something down, you remember it more, and it means more. It becomes part of who you are faster than just thinking about something.
100%.
So journaling is definitely, and if I struggle with anything, it's journaling. Only because life is so busy. Oh yeah, it's hard. It's hard to consistently journal. And I know what I have to do. I just have to make it part of my life for 30 to 60 days, and then I'm done. And then it's part of who I am, right? Just like I did with meditation and practicing mindfulness and everything else. You just make it part of who you are, and then you can't imagine going through a day without doing it.
Right. Yeah. Part of your routine. Absolutely.
Yeah. Same thing with exercise. And that's another great tool. Fitness, exercise. It's a drug that's good for you. It's called endorphins.
Yep.
And they will take any bad mood and make it better.
Yeah.
And give you clarity. You become clearer in your thoughts, right? You have more energy. And I'm just talking about 20 minutes of cardio, any cardio, and if you're really, really out of shape, just go walk around the block.
Yeah.
Just take a walk. Start there, start small. You don't have to go and run a marathon tomorrow.
If you can do it around the block, great. If you can jump on a hiking trail, even better. You have a beach side. Beach is great. My sister tends to love the beach, but I tend to love nature. I love my trees.
Yeah, me too. Well, I'm a big mountain biker, so it's great because the mountain bike, you can be lost in the middle of nowhere within 10 minutes. It's wonderful.
And the smells and the way the trees dance and the wind.
And looking at the majesty of nature.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And even my dog loves it. He loves to chase after the squirrels and and he's like, oh, heck yes, this is good. This is good. Love when mom takes me to go hiking with her. So what is one thing, if you could change the world, what would it be?
The world gets up to 1% of people of the population meditating. It would have a significant global shift on every level.
Yeah.
Politically, economically, spiritually, the world would change in such a positive way. If we can get even less than 1%, even if 0.5% of the world meditated on a regular basis, it would change everything.
I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah, that overthinking mind, calm it down. Just breathe. When you meditate, what helps me is just to count my breaths. Do you use any apps or how do you meditate?
I use Insight Timer. I've used it for quite a long time because I like the community in there, and I also post meditations. I'm a teacher on there, but the community as well is very supportive. There's groups and circles and all kinds of fun stuff that you can do on there, and there's a great timer, and it also keeps track of how much you've meditated since you've been there, which is really
Yeah.
which is really fun. So I really like Insight Timer. It's a great app. So when I say I put meditations on there, they're guided meditations. And so there's a whole library of free guided meditations that are on there. But the guided meditations for the people that are starting out are just phenomenal. You can always find the one that's really your niche that kind of, boom, you get that little spark going, and that's all you need.
Absolutely. There's many apps out there. I mean, you can even jump on YouTube and get them for free. And I mean, I love guided meditations, especially when I have a lot on my plate and I know it's going to be a little bit more difficult to just focus and be. You know, it takes you on a whole different dimension if you let
it. Totally makes you aware. Which is the scariest proposition for most people that don't do it.
Yeah. I know.
Sitting with myself for 20 minutes.
Sitting with your thoughts.
No, there's a million other things I'd rather do. You know?
Yeah.
Sit with yourself.
Yeah. Nothing is more important than yourself, than your well-being. You know, whatever that looks like. Walk, meditate, journal, sit by yourself, look at the birds, just give yourself some peace. And where can the audience find you?
It's myspiritualwarriors.com.
Yeah.
I have a Facebook group, kind of URL part of it, group/be a spiritual warrior. And then Instagram as well, spiritual_warrior2.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'll link everything below so that the audience can have those. Thank you so much for your time today. This was such a beautiful episode about find your purpose, passion.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been wonderful. I can talk about this stuff forever.
I know. So do I. I can too.
Which is why you have a successful podcast. So.
Oh, that's so sweet. Remember to live with intention and purpose and ignite the CEO in you. This podcast is sponsored by WomanCEOs Inc.'s movement to commit to challenge women to dare self-love and embody financial literacy. WomanCEO Podcast is brought to you every week, aired on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so you don't miss any episodes. See you next time. Bisous, bisous.